support or selling resistance or trading breakouts, you just can't make any money. You're just getting chopped up, volumes down, things like that. What we call paper. Paper comes in the market, retail customers as opposed to the institution traders. Things don't work. So you want to pick your times and find your best time periods. And you can use power stats also in the chart pattern program to determine when the volatility is going to take place, and you want to focus on that time. Okay? So that's why you can decide whether a market to fade a move that's coming down. This is basically a counter trend move because you can see the trends coming down. And you can also then read momentum when this area is getting tested. And if it doesn't follow through, then you can see that it forms a support base and change direction. So you get plenty of indications whether a market is on strong momentum or to go through, or if the momentum is slowing down and you get a failure. So that's very important. And you can see that there's significant levels also that are being tested, as well as identifying support points and also the length. So all those are really critical. Now, here's another question before we move on to the live data, and then we start questions, our other questions. A true or false, an approach signal is an early warning signal that price is moving towards an identified level of support or resistance. Yeah, it's 100% right. It's beautiful. Okay, everybody's paying attention, almost 40 minutes into this, so that's good. That makes me happy. I haven't lost anybody. All right, so we're going to move on now to our next slide, and that's going to say that, before I move on to the live stuff, I'm going to say that tune in next week for advanced lessons on breakout trading, featuring examples of volatility, momentum, and stop suggestions. Also, of course, we're going to talk about combining the key levels with chart patterns and Fibonacci patterns. So that's important to look at. All right, so let's go to our program. Let's go to my live action. The, oops, there we go. Nope, get rid of that. Too many buttons. Okay, I just want to let you know that the Autochartist has a web-based program and an MT4-based program. So when you get the Autochartist, if you use an MT4 and you have a plugin, you can plug in these patterns based on whether you want to use MT4 or you want to use the web-based program. So let's go to the web-based program first. We can pull up here. There we go. You see that the screen is basically the same Autochartist screen, except we've added this button here called Key Levels. This first button is Chart Patterns. You can see you're going to come up with triangle patterns and wedges and the channels and all those nice things that we've studied before. You're going to have a whole slew of indicators here. You also have your Fibonacci patterns that come up, and that gives us patterns as well as projection zones. And then you have your key levels. And you can see that the details have shrunk a little bit here compared to the other programs, the other pattern identification programs. So let's see if we can get this up here pretty quick. Looks like we're crunching away here. And again, there's not a lot of detail here as we develop, as this program comes up, because we're looking for simplicity. It's a very simple signal. The market's either breaking out above it, or approaching it, or breaking out above it or below it. So you don't need a lot of ratings and things like that. You just need to have it come up. There we go. So the first one we look at today that's come up, you can see that on this left side it's identified as breakouts. and on the right side you have approaches. Okay, so what we have here is a euro British pound, and this line is coming up here as resistance point, and you can see that the market's breaking out above it. Okay, that's when the breakout signal is given. As the market breaks out, you're going to get your forecast zone. Okay, you can see this is live, so this market is working currently right now towards this forecast zone. If I blow this up a bit, you should be able to see. Oh, there we go. You can see that when you're watching this area, when this green candlestick crossed over, you can see that it never came underneath it. There was a breakout, follow through up, and a little test back down, but it held up above it. Okay. Now, when you see these breakouts taking place, it's up to you to know what the momentum of a particular forex market is, or a stock index, or commodity, or whatever you're trading, in equity, so that you know the characteristics of the market you're trading. Although you're going to get a large list of trades throughout the day, suggested that you trade the ones that you're comfortable with, but make sure that they're ones that have high volume and high volatility and good price movement throughout a day. Okay? Because as I said before, that if you don't have a market that has those characteristics of high volume and high volatility, no matter how hard you try, breakouts just aren't going to work. Okay, so you're going to see that, especially in equity markets, you get some that trade in very tight, narrow ranges throughout the day, and sure you'll get breakouts, but you'll get very small breakouts. And then you get some markets that have dollar, $1.50 ranges per day, and they tend to be a little bit more volatile. So you can use that to your benefit. Every program, search engine, things like that, get moves, what its average volume is, things like that. So you should be able to come up with some kind of list that gives you the characteristics of the market. And as you can see, this is a very strong breakout. Autochartist has identified the minimum upside target, gives you the breakout point at 85.72. It gives you the target price at 85.95 at the minimum. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that you have to be good at reading momentum, because not only on the breakout are you going to have to know what momentum is, but as it approaches this line, okay, you should know what momentum is or how to read momentum, because it's basically, think about it, this lower level is the same as the resistance point, so that it's either going to go through this or it's going to stop here. So if you get good at reading momentum, you may be able to take this thing higher and take a lot more out of it than somebody who just sets a target there and says, all right, I'm done, I'm out. So if you can learn to read momentum, it's going to become a skill that you can use not only on entries but also on your exits. So I suggest that you do learn that. All right, I'm going to close this program off here and move on to the next one. All right, so that's what the breakout looks like. Now, in an approaching scenario, this is the British pound US dollar. And again, it's live, so we're going to see what comes up here. Okay, this one is saying that we had a top and we had a hard sell-off, and now we have hit a point where we're headed towards our support point. Okay, that's the support line, this blue line. And if it continues on this path, it should just continue down to the support line, which is at 15743. Okay. Now, as a trader, maybe you're long this market. Maybe you didn't get out. So you have to say to yourself, well, Autochartist is telling me it could go down to here. Do I want to hold on to this till it gets down to here? As a trader who's flat and wants to get in, and he's a little bit more aggressive, he may decide that I have confidence in this. I can see that there's room to the downside, and momentum is strong. These candlesticks are pretty big and they're bearish, so I think I'll play a move down to the downside. And others will say I'll wait for it to get there and I'll decide what to do. So if it gets there, it's either going to turn around and go the other way, or it's going to become a breakout to the downside. So those are two ways that you can use the pattern. And like I said, running out of time, we'll take some questions in a minute. I'll go back to MT4 here in a second. So we'll go into more details on how to use these next week, but that's basically the premise of it right now. Now, if I go into my custom indicators in MT4, I can slide my program into the screen, and it's going to identify where I have a pattern. So you can see right here that this green line came in indicating that I had a complete pattern or a breakout pattern at this point. The market identified this as the target zone, but you can see that it has since then failed to reach the target zone. Okay, as I said before, you want to look at momentum, and again I'll just go on this briefly. You can see this is the average true range on this 15-minute chart. Okay, it's been declining. Okay, so all throughout this rally, dragged out, the average true range was declining. So when this market did break out, there was a lot of price action, but it really didn't show up in terms of the entire trend. So when volatility, or this ATR, is going down and you get these breakouts, they tend to have very light momentum behind them. So in this case, what you want to do is almost adapt what I call a see money, take money strategy. That means that you take the breakout, but when you see any kind of red, you just bail. Okay? Now, if you keep seeing green, you stay with it. And that's pretty much it. So as soon as you see red, you just get out. You take the trade for whatever you can get. And that's very common for any kind of momentum system or any traders that use breakouts, is that they're trading momentum. If the market stops going up, they get out. We also, I've written papers on it, and I think I called it a strategy. You go home with the girl you took to the dance. So if you get in with the girl, if you get into the market with momentum, you get out when the momentum goes away. You don't want to turn it into a swing trade where now all of a sudden you're long and you're riding it and you're waiting for it to turn and you're going into this long swing. It'll take forever. So again, if you get in momentum, get out momentum. So we'll cover that next week, and we'll cover the MT4. But I just wanted to show you today the basics of the program. I appreciate you sticking around and listening to me, and we'll work more next week on the MT4. Since you do have the basics down, I'll go right into the charts, and we'll have plenty of time to look at examples. So right now, I'd like to take a few minutes to handle some of the questions that you have.
Thanks very much, James.
And let's see what we have here.
You can scroll right down to...
A voice instead of that.
I'm like a bad dream. I keep on coming back.
I thought it was MT4 talking.
If you can scroll right down to Mike Chandler's question. I've answered most of the questions.
Yes, and I will. Now, can you see this big box here that I'm opening up?
No.
Do you see what I'm doing? You can't? Just wondered. All right, I will.
Would you like me to read it to
not
you?
show answered questions. Well, since I have trouble with the word skillfully, and you're the one that put it in there, maybe you can read better than I can. Two L's in skillfully. Mike Collier, thank you, Mike. 1 vote for me. I was going to put that in as a poll question, but I didn't want to offend a vet. But yes,
I do apologize.
I did the spell search. It kept, no, it's right. It depends on what side of the pond you're on.
Okay, I thought so.
It depends on what side of the pond you're on.
I thought so.
And so my Microsoft word checker, spell checker, is geared towards American, but then, you know, you guys say use S's where we use Z's and
That's
things.
right.
So, okay, so how can we identify when the big players enter? Mike Chandler. Well, if you're going to trade equities and you're going to trade indices, you want to look at the tape. You want to see that. You'll see, like, for example, if you trade E-mini S&Ps, you're going to see a lot of 111s going through, or 2s on the volume on what's actually being traded. But when you start to see the 5s, the 10s, the 50s, the big boys come in, those are usually where they come in. Okay. You also want to know that they trade earlier in the day, like tend to trade around the opening. They try to be a little bit more efficient. So you do have to, you have the ability in a lot of programs to go back on the tape, replay the day. You may want to set up filters to see where these big lots go off. So you're really looking for size. All right, now you're not going to see, if I'm with a big firm and I'm going to hand an order over to, if I want to hand it to my traders, I'm not going to tell them to trade a million shares of a particular stock 100 at a time. You know, you're going to want to try to get out of it as fast as you can so you don't move the market. So you might do it in 5,000 share chunks or 10,000 share chunks. You can see when somebody puts size on the bid and offer. So you have to read the tape and you have to look at the level 2 and watch, and then build a, either write it down or build a memory, something in your memory that where you know who the you know who these traders are. But definitely use it in conjunction with these breakout programs. James or Yvette, well, we still want to use quality 7+ like you've recommended in the past. That refers to our quality indicators. I'm going to be talking about that next week, and I didn't cover it today. But when you go into advanced search with Autochartist, you have the ability to select how you want to weight it. I'll go in there really fast here and show everybody what I'm talking about. Let's see here. Should be up here. There it goes. All right, so when I go behind here and I look, you can go down to this new search. Wait, it's loading up again. Hold on. There we go. So when I go into new search, the only variable that we have besides picking the markets you want to cover is you can go into, let's say I went in the wrong one. Got to go to key levels. Go into key levels. I go into new search, and I come down here, and I have the ability to choose how many points I want here. So again, it's going to work on the same principle we talked about before, is that if you pick a low point, you're going to have a lot more patterns. If you pick something really high, you could make everything so tight, the parameters so tight you don't get anything. So I'll probably, I'll do some work on that before the next webinar next week, and we'll come up with some stats on that and what I feel works well. Because again, I don't want to squeeze myself out of the market, but I also don't want to have too many where I'm in and out of the market too. So I probably, since I talked about 7s before, I'd have to say that that's probably a safe starting point. Usually start at 5 and work my way up. That's how I came to 7, meaning that's a strong trend. That's a good question. Okay, and we've got another question here. Let's see. Mike, don't have the stats on the time period. I know from personal experience that you want to trade any of these breakouts around the active times. Okay. Now, besides the 4-touch method and the 5-touch method of these breakouts, remember that crossing the previous day's top or high or low is also a horizontal line. So you know that you have experience in the past, you just may not have known it. But when you cross the previous day's high, or when you cross the opening price in the morning, or when you cross the previous day's close, some days you just go on your chart program and plot where those areas are. So we've all had experience trading horizontals before, except Autochartist has come up with their own way to determine where these horizontal patterns are. That's why, again, I want to emphasize that it's created for because it's intuitive and it's simple to use. So we've all had experience in trading breakouts, but this is another way to come up with breakout points. Okay, let's see. Cheers. Ian James has left. Okay, good session. Thanks for the info. I always say that. Thanks, Mom. Okay, can you tell me when GFT will have key levels in their auto program? I can't go by specific brokers, but I think they're all being added. You may want to check to see if maybe you have to upgrade or refresh, excuse me, refresh your program. Maybe you're dealing with a older version. So you may want to see with their tech support whether a newer version is available. Volume spread analysis. And Mark Reno, yes, anything that has to do with volume or volatility in conjunction with breakouts is always recommended, and we're going to cover that next week in MT4 also. Do you have resistance and support of key levels more probabilities occur than others? Well, as far as because the markets are dynamic and they're moving, I can't really say where these horizontal points will come up, what more frequently than others. But I just named a few. I can tell you that from a trader standpoint, the high, the low, the close, the previous day's open, high, low, close, all those areas are horizontal points. The high for the week, some people have trader pivots, S1, S2, R1, R2. So you're seeing these horizontals all over the place. Autochartist, again, it's the key levels. It's a unique way to come up with the key levels. So, but to say whether an area will occur in a higher probability of time, I don't think you can really say it. I think in an uptrend, of course, the high of the previous day gets taken out more often, and in a downtrend, the low gets taken out, because you can just look at how many times the market trades inside the previous day. It's kind of rare. So those types of breakouts occur a lot. So those are probably high probability moves, but not. And as far as levels are concerned, some stocks like to trade around the zeros. Something hits 65, 66, 67. Some like to trade by quarters. Some like to trade by 50s. So those types of things occur, but you can't really handle that. Let's see.
To wrap things up, James, we've sort of time's caught up with us.
Oh, it's 9:03 a.m.
Can you believe
USA.
that? They say time flies when you're having fun, right?
I had a lot of fun this morning.
Thank you very much for spending some time with us. It's been a very good session, and we're definitely looking forward to next week's more in-depth training. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I would suggest you bring a seatbelt.
Great.
Because I'm going to knock you out. It's good stuff.
We'll definitely
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Okay,
All right,
you take care.
Weekend, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.